One of our viewers asked this question. I've read about dividend investing for retirement. Is this a good strategy? Can you help me? So stay tuned for the full episode. Thank you for watching. This is Richard with Wisdom Investor. There's a lot of powerful benefits to dividend growth investing. We're going to review this concept. We're also going to look at 6 stocks that are excellent for dividend growth investing. But let's take a look at this question here. I've read about dividend investing for retirement. Is this a good strategy? I am wanting to get started, but it's confusing. What should I look for? Okay, we're going to review some basic concepts here. What is a dividend? A dividend is an amount of money that a company or stock will pay its shareholders. A 4% annual dividend, for example, or yield, means the company will pay you $4 each year in dividend income on $100 stock. This amount of money comes from the company's earnings and gets paid to shareholders just for owning shares in the company. Let's take a look at McDonald's here, for example. McDonald's has $1,000 in profit. Of course, they make billions of dollars. They take 500 of that and they put it into the operations growth. And then they take the other 500 and they pay that out as a dividend to their stockholders. Now, growth companies like Tesla, they're not going to pay dividends. They're going to put all their money back into their business. So keep in mind, a dividend is free money and passive income. Of course, you can be taxed on it, but it's basically passive income to you. Let's talk about dividend growth investing here for a moment. Here's a chart of Johnson & Johnson. I got this chart from Making Sense of Sense. Here's a chart of the dividend growth by Johnson & Johnson from 1997 to 2017. Each year, this dividend grew. That's dividend growth investing. Now, some investors are looking for stocks that are dividend payers. Maybe they have $500,000 and they want to invest it and they want to receive a dividend. They're not as concerned with dividend growing. So a retired person may be looking for a dividend payer stock. Okay, they're looking for cash flow. A younger investor perhaps might be looking for dividend growers. Now let's look at this. Warren Buffett, his investing strategy is all about dividends, but he doesn't reinvest them. He looks for companies that are already putting out a strong dividend. So if you're young, let's say 25 to 50, you're going to want to build wealth and use dividend income. You're looking for dividend growers. Over the long run, dividend growers will outpace dividend payers. Let's take a look at a stock here just to give us an idea about dividend growth investing. Here's Cisco Systems. They're computer networking. Their dividend yield is 3.24%. They've had dividend growth in their company for the last 7 years. So they're a dividend growth company. Their growth rate over the last 5 years is 12.4%. So that's an example of a stock that's a dividend growth stock. Okay, let's take a look at this dividend growth strategy. What it's all about is dividends grow each year. We looked at that. Get a stock that has verified dividend growth each year. You reinvest the dividends to allow compounding. We've all heard the story about if you doubled a penny a day, by end of a month, it's going to be worth millions. And you also want a solid company that is going to have that dividend around for years. Let's take a look at an example of dividend growth investing. Let's say you invest $20,000 in a stock. The price is $20 per share. You buy 1,000 shares. At the end of the year, they give a 50-cent dividend. 50-cent dividend would yield you $500. 1,000 times 0.5. Let's say at the end of the year, the stock price is $22. And you reinvested, the dividend buys an extra 22.73 shares. So 500 divided by 22 is 22.73. Keep in mind here, this is just an example. Many times these companies will pay out a dividend every quarter. So let's go to year 2 now. We have 1,022 shares from our increase of shares the first year. It pays a dividend now 55 cents. The previous year, the dividend was 50 cents, so there's dividend growth. So we end up receiving $562. So here's calculation, 1,022.73 times 0.55. Let's say now the stock price at the end of year 2 is $24.20. They pay the dividend that we just talked about, 0.55. This would buy you an extra 23.24 shares. We take our 562.5 divided by $24.20. So we now have 1,045 shares valued at $25,312. So here we saw stock price increase. We saw the dividend increase also. And we also saw the number of shares increase. So now by year 3, you have 1,069 shares. You started out with 1,000. Your investment has grown from 20,000 to 28,000 due to dividend growth investment. So let's take a look at 6 stocks that I think are excellent candidates. This first one is Verizon. Has a dividend yield of 4.11%. Dividend growth for the last 13 years. The dividend growth rate is 2.4. That's a little bit on the low side. On the right-hand side here is some parameters I like to see here. The dividend yield between 3 and 6, payout ratio between 35 and 60, PE ratio between 0 and 15, the PEG ratio 0 to 3, and the price to book 0 to 4. We talked about Cisco Systems here. Pays a yield of 3.24, dividend growth the last 7 years, and the growth rate for the last 5 years, 12.4%. Excellent. Keep in mind as we look at these stocks, they're all in a different category. So it gives us diversification. Here's Chevron. Yield of 6.11%. Dividend growth the last 33 years. Dividend growth rate 2.2%. AbbVie in the biotech pharma area. Dividend yield 4.85%. Dividend growth is the last 49 years. And the 5-year dividend growth rate of 20.7%. Now this one at 4.88% could be a good dividend payer. It's also a good dividend growth fund, but it could be a good dividend payer for someone who just wants yield. Duke Energy, dividend yield 4.22. Dividend growth the last 13 years. Dividend growth rate 3.6%. The last one we're going to look at is Kimberly-Clark. Dividend yield 3.17%. Dividend growth over the last 49 years, and the growth rate 4.3 over the last 5. So I want to thank you for watching this video on dividend growth investing for retirement. Leave a comment. Stay tuned for the next update.